assignment.
Yeah, I think that you like posted it the due date, but I haven't really did it yet.
That's fine. So remember what genogram looks like. Hello.
Hey.
If our markers want to work today, they're not going to work. I think we have one. Let me see if there's a better one over there. So it's 3 generations of your family tree. And I know, were you not here for when I did all that with mine?
Yeah, I was.
You were, okay.
Yeah.
Were you? Do you have any questions on how to make a genogram?
No. When are we gonna start making?
It's due like
Next week.
So you can make it now. If you want to wait till midnight the night before it's due, that's okay too. I understand. So, and again, we do that because we are social workers and we ask lots of questions about like, what's your family history? What's your next, is somebody down at the other classroom still?
123.
Did you just email me? What room number is this? Somebody said, I'm at the classroom.
214.
214. I'm in 214. Okay. It could be like new. And then Anna, I had something come up, be late, but still be here. Okay. So, because life happens, oh yeah, you guys can sign in. I'm going to do one side is intro and this side is hbse. So,
Did
you just email me? You didn't email me. That side. So let's see if she shows up. So we do the family history because a lot of our stuff is connected to genetics. You guys ever hear that about your family? Like, we got this gene or we got that gene running the family. Sometimes they're good, but usually you hear about the bad stuff. Like, well, we got, diabetes, we got cancer, we got, what else comes up? Even addiction, alcoholism, we got, yeah. I have heart disease for sure in my family. That's why my dad, maybe 33. When COVID made it even worse. I don't know if you guys heard about some of that. Some of the crazy stuff on COVID. What time did she email me? At 2:28, and I replied at 2:31. Does anybody know Shania? Are you guys okay if I run down and get her so she doesn't get lost with the fish? I like their shoes. Are those actual golf balls or basketballs?
Nah, it's called bubble slide.
Okay. I can send her the YouTube link. So apparently right after I said, it's still kind of COVID, you guys can sign in from here and watch it, the provost said no, first and second year students should do online classes because apparently they got bad research on that. Did you guys hear about any of that? Share, copy, and then. So any questions about the genogram? I guess that's what I was going to brief up real quick because that's your next thing that's coming up and due. And then, this one always does that. Like if you bend the cord even just a little bit, it gets mad at you. So if you were a social worker and you had somebody come in, let's just exclude age and all of the above. Like, I'm pregnant. What would you guys do?
Well, do they want to keep it or not keep it?
So this one, I'm going with this slide. So assessing expectant parents. So I would say they're probably going to keep it. Attach, like, what are their attachments and commitments? Well, how would you guys go? You know, like, say you're the social worker. We're just throwing that in. What would you do first?
I would, like, I would let them know other options,
Mm-hmm.
make sure that they, you know, call me at their first appointment, all that.
Yes, they do a lot of them scans. Like, my wife and I are considered geriatric parents, so they give us like every 3 weeks. They think we're old. And we are. She doesn't like being called that, as it's anytime after 35. And women have babies past 35 all the time. I think 40 is normal now, but like it becomes after 40, it can be dangerous.
Yeah.
Did you email me today or was that somebody else?
Somebody else.
I don't want to lose them. They're like, I'm in the old classroom, or they're like, I'm down here. But all right, so this is, you know, the start of everything. Did anybody have, I think we only had like 2 or 3 run into that problem in high school. And they did want to keep it. So you want to look at their attachments, commitments. How are they mentally representing the fetal infant? What's the past history and social and professional support? What is their history of loss? What is their sense of security? And then work and parental leave policies. That's a big one. Have you guys heard of parental leave policies before? Like at Miami, they would give you paternal leave status. When I taught over there, if I got somebody pregnant, they give me paternal time off when the baby's born. We don't do it here, but yeah, it would have been very helpful because it is, I don't know how to explain it. Has anybody ever dealt with a brand new infant? Like,
I mean, not mine.
right, but you see how much dang work goes into it, like all freaking day. Because we're having ours on New Year's Eve, so she's like, thank God you have, what, till MLK Day, like 21 days where you can like help me all day, every day. It's her mom will try to help. Her sisters said they would help, and you know, you take whatever help you can get. What was your all's experience helping with a new baby?
Stressed out.
Was it like your sisters or brothers or?
It was, I have with my little sister.
Okay.
Yeah, so like, every time she woke up, I woke up.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I had to get up at school for 6 a.m.
Every 2 hours, right?
She waking up at like 1, 2, 3, like.
So she was going into school still while trying to keep up with the baby? Or you're saying your sister would?
No.
Okay.
She said she would
My
be
mama
getting
had
up
a
to
baby.
school.
That's my little sister. Is what I'm saying.
Ah, so you're that far apart that you remember. Okay. How many years apart? 13.
No, 9.
That's still good enough that you remember it all. Anybody else was like you got nieces or nephews yet?
Mhm.
It's a lot of work. Hello. Were you who just emailed? You were in the old classroom? Okay. We like this room better. Is it cooler in here? Because the old one was so hot.
It's hot in here.
Oh, it's so hot in
It
here,
felt
but
good, like last week, you felt good in here though.
it feels better than that
Child.
tiny room, I think. Way better. So, as a social worker, you check out the parents, make sure that it's, you know, they've got all their needs met. And sometimes it does go back. Like if you're doing, do any of you want to be a high school counselor or do stuff in with adolescent kids or grade school kids, or because this could happen as soon as they ovulate. And you know how early that girls are starting to ovulate nowadays, like the earliest you've heard?
I think like 7 or 8.
It is 8th grade?
Mhm.
Yeah.
7 or 8 years old.
8 years old. Okay. Because I've heard because of bovine growth hormone in our milk, it's earlier. And that's why some people drink organic milk. Maybe I should feed my kids organic milk. It's just expensive. It's $3 a gallon for the normal red cap milk. Organic milk, $6 a gallon. So it's literally double. Right. Yeah. We probably would qualify when our coronavirus was last year for sure. So that is some of the stuff, you're right. I've heard that there has been a pregnancy as early as like 8, 9, and 10 or younger. And so I know that you guys have already had this, but this is like the breakdown of how the baby happens. There's only about 10 days. For example, oh yeah, when we had Russian students, that's why that's in Russian. So you can just ignore it unless if you understand Russian. I don't understand Russian. But she said it was a good translation. So there's 10 days. Like, for example, my wife and I did want kids. We did want kids fast also. So during those 10 days she was fertile, we wanted to make sure that she had the means to get pregnant. One of the methods that they use, known as the Creighton Method, because have you ever had anyone in your life struggle with infertility? Like they're like trying to have a kid and then they can't. And so it's very common. Both my sister-in-law and my brother and sister-in-law, so on my wife's side and my side, she's got 2 and they were unable to conceive. So they adopted. And then my brother, they would always be able to conceive, but endometriosis is something that's common in females, which is kind of like a webbing inside of the uterus that blocks where the baby would grow. So usually the baby would get just big enough and it wouldn't survive. So they adopted. And they got past this part. So fallopian tube, egg drops about 2 weeks after your period. You could get fertilized here in the fallopian tube, but that's dangerous if the egg implants in the fallopian tube. So that's, I think it's called ectopic pregnancy. So usually the egg will like carry down fallopian tube, divide into 2s, 4s, 6, 8, and that's like 32 cells at 3 days. So it's moving quickly, and then it attaches inside the uterus. That's the key. As long as it attaches in the uterus, that's a safe pregnancy. Ectopic is dangerous to the life of the woman and are also very common and frequent. So what we had happen though is if your progesterone is not right, you could still shed your uterine lining. And that's what happened to my wife and I twice. So last year we tried to get pregnant twice and she still had her period. So often the baby's washed out with the period. So what a doctor can do is give you progesterone, and that tells your body to hold the uterine lining, like keep it there, don't shed. So she's made it halfway. She's at 20 weeks. She said it was Friday, so 21. Any of you guys know how long the babies go for when they're growing?
40 weeks.
It is 40. Isn't that weird? Because wouldn't that be 10 months?
It's actually 10 months.
Yeah. So I had to ask that. I go to the doctors with her and I'm like, why in the heck is she pregnant for 10 months?
They're like, I was like, 9 months, that's 10 months. They're like, it's 9 full months. Okay, so it's 10 months.
So the reason they do that is they start week 1 is when you have your period. So week 2 is usually when you become fertile. And a lot of times people get pregnant week 3. But they still call it week 3. And it's like, wait, is the baby 3 weeks old or is that week 3? So it is actually 3 weeks after your period. And then it's 9 months. But it is still so confusing because they're going off of your cycle. So a woman's cycle is generally, I think, every 28 days. And then so they count your pregnancy as 2 weeks before conception pretty much. So they're calling it the day that you had your last period. And you can't get pregnant, obviously, until there's usually 10 fertile days. I think the woman is fertile for like 6 or 7, but sperm can live up to 10 days. And that's why they're like, if you don't want a pregnancy and you're doing like natural, like you guys ever seen them give birth in like the bathtubs and all that stuff, and won't use the contraception, won't use because it's bad for your body and won't do all that. If you don't want to get pregnant, there's 10 days you can't have intercourse because you're fertile for those 6 plus the 3 or 4 additional that the sperm's living in the mucus. So You also can't get pregnant if there's no mucus. So that was like kind of the gross stuff I got to learn with my wife. I'm like, what's up with this Creighton Method and mucus? So she was really trying quickly to get pregnant. We learned about Creighton Method and mucus. Anybody ever heard of this one? So that tells you when you are fertile. Because basically the sperm can't live without mucus. So there's a lot of, well, there it is. How to check your cervical mucus. Yes. So that was us getting pregnant. And you're basically just supposed to test when you go to the bathroom. You wipe. If there's mucus, you're fertile. And that's it. That's as simple as it is. And yes, it can look like snot. It is mucus. It's a mucus. And that's pregnancy. That's how you know you're fertile. I didn't know they had a video. But it's life, you know. It's one of them topics in class you'd love to avoid. I don't want to talk about it. But as a social worker, we should know. So there's some folks trying to get pregnant. It always seems like those that are trying to get pregnant can't, and those that are trying not to get pregnant do. You know what I mean? It's like wonky. It's like, all right. So the mucus thing is something I feel like they never talked about, though. Like, I don't think I even knew that growing up. Did any of you guys know that? Did you? How'd you know? So you just notice, like, when you ovulate, like, okay, there's mucus.
Like a phase before your period and after, and then there's something that starts with the ill. I can't remember how to pronounce it. And that's either before or after the ovulation. Ovulation is like a few days, like a week before.
Right, because the sperm lives in that mucus. That's why it's 10 days. And if you have no mucus, the sperm dies off like that. All the insights, and now we got nothing. So, should I not watch that because it looks too gross? All right. All right. How about just this? It's 2 minutes of explaining fertility. This helped us get pregnant, so it worked. There's
The Creighton model system is a method of natural family planning. That's initially how it was designed. It was actually a standardization of the Billings method. And so women will make daily observations of any bleeding patterns or cervical mucus discharge. It's all external observations. And in doing so, they start to track their cycle and know exactly, you know, if this is abnormal bleeding or if this is a fertile time of the cycle or an infertile time of the cycle. So as a method of family planning, it can be used to avoid pregnancy. And some women will use that for that reason. But what I like to see is that women are actually using it to achieve pregnancy. And so for infertile couples, it's incredibly useful for them to be able to chart their cycle. And many women are already doing this on an iPhone app or whatever. So
there's a lot of
by
apps.
learning to chart their cycle with this standardized method, we can actually diagnose the underlying issues that may be leading to their inability to achieve. Sometimes it's limited cervical mucus, sometimes that can be hormonal issues, abnormal bleeding, endometrial inflammation. And so when they start charting their cycles, we can then use that Creighton model system as sort of the diagnostic foundation of all the assessments that we can do. In the long term, then, once we start to do treatments for infertility, we can actually use that Creighton model chart to say, okay, this is when you're most likely to ovulate. And so now this is when we're going to start our ultrasounds to watch ovulation on ultrasound. Okay, this is the day you've ovulated based on your chart. Now we know when to do specific hormone studies or specific treatments that are timed with the cycle. So as you can tell, this is all a cooperative system that, you know, the woman is charting out her cycle. We know where she is in her cycle, and this becomes incredibly beneficial for especially infertile couples who are trying to achieve pregnancy, to know when they're ovulating, and then also to know how best to supplement with medications to make the cycle more regular.
So it's more information than I ever wanted to learn about pregnancy, but I also am grateful I learned it because I feel like I was in the dark. Like growing up, I'd be like, "Oh no, you can't, you can't have sex ever, or you're going to get pregnancy." Well, it was helpful to know like those 10 days that fertility part was that the charting, and so my wife did some of the charting that was kind of. I was surprised she did some of it because it's almost like doing homework all the time. You know what I mean? It's like
She did it on app or like on paper?
she did do it on the app. They also have. We went to like this literally 80-year-old woman who had like stickers, and when she was fertile, it was a green baby, and then when she was infertile, it was like a yellow baby. And so she knew when like green now. And you're supposed to like wait every other day because that way the man has more sperm deposited that way. So like just knowing your own cycle, being familiar with if you want to get pregnant. If you don't want to get pregnant, definitely skip them 10 days. You know what I mean? Like those are the key 10 days to not mess around with. And she knew like exactly, she was like spot on 28 days or whatever. You know what I mean? So it was like exactly 4 weeks.
I don't like them. They say like those period tracking apps, like they sell your information and stuff like that. Like,
Oh, I heard that. Yeah.
I know
Okay.
there's been,
So,
like a lot of controversy around that.
okay.
I feel like if you try for a baby, I feel like it's worth it. I mean, let them sell your info. No, I'm just-
Right. No, I hear what you're saying because then they're going to advertise to you on Amazon. You're ready to buy a crib. You want to buy a breast pump. Here's the most expensive breast pump. So that was some of the stuff about fertility that I got to learn. And we were, kind of new at. So 1 to 4 weeks. Yeah. I guess the baby's called a zygote, fertilized ovum, implants, and uterine lining. Now, stages of prenatal. So from 2 to 7 weeks is the embryo. So this is kind of going off that too. That's why there's 40 weeks. My wife always has the baby at either 36 weeks, 37 weeks, or 38 weeks. So she's early, which she's glad for. Is it hurts like hell when you get up to like 9 months pregnant. You're like out to here. And it's like a whole nother human living inside of you. You know what I mean? So she has a cousin that has the baby at 41 weeks and 42 weeks. That's just insane. Like you're carrying the baby. At that point, sometimes they induce you. They like, I forget what.
If it's your first kid, they don't want to induce you until you're at least like 42 weeks.
Right.
They don't want to.
Right. So our first one, we did get induced at 38 or 39, only because her water broke. Like they would measure how much water you have in there as the baby needs to live in that little like, safe space or whatever it's called. So you don't get pregnant till like week 2 or week 3 because you have period for weeks 1 and 2. Embryo is 2 to 7 weeks. 90% is formed by that 7th week, which is crazy. So like the baby has basic structures in place. Like,
at 7 weeks.
yep, fingerprints, heartbeat. It's scary. What's that?
That's crazy.
It is.
I thought it took like a long time for all that to,
Right. You would think.
It's like
So,
months.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the baby is fully formed. Now they can't live outside of the womb until like the 19th week, which is still super early. But yeah, at 7 weeks, it has a fingerprint, a heartbeat, all of those. Critical period, and when the embryo is most vulnerable to environment. They say most miscarriages happen in those first 12 weeks. So we had 2 miscarriages last year. And it's sad as you're like naming it and you're like excited and drawing all, she'd draw like baby is the size of a blueberry today. Baby is the size of a strawberry today. And it's like cute and then it dies. It's like crap, it's sad. So fetus is from 8 to 40 weeks. So you can see there they're identifying probably they have had a fetus live outside of the womb in somewhere like 13 to 19. I don't know what the record is. Like in those, like, what are those little housings that they have? They're like, it's like a blue light and like a safe space.
Like an incubator?
Yeah, like an incubated baby. You have refinement and growth of basic structures the last 2 months storing fat. So the baby gets real fat the last 2 months. It's basically only 4 or 5 pounds in the last 2 months. I hear every week and a half to 2.5 weeks it's gaining a whole pound. So like those last few weeks, that's why her going 2 or 3 weeks early, she feels like she's saved from carrying around like an 8-pound or 10-pound baby, which that's freaking heavy, like a bit. Most babies are like 7, maybe 6.5. And it depends. And it's key to have good nutrition and all of that stuff. So this book is 10 years old. It says at 24 weeks, it has a chance of survival outside the womb. I had a friend who just had a baby at 21 weeks, and it survived. His wife is from Latin America and flew all the way to South America, and like it set her into early. I don't know how to explain it, but like the baby had to go, or she was going to die, and they were able to keep that baby alive at like 21 weeks until now. And it's probably, I guess, that's weird though, is if it was supposed to be born at 40 weeks and it came 19 weeks early, what do? It's still like 1 month old at super early, and it was so small. The dude was like, I don't even know how to explain it. So, well, here it is. It says early term pregnancy is from 37 weeks and 0 days until 38 weeks, 6 days. Full term is 39 weeks. That's when they'll like inject you to like have the baby at 39. 40 weeks and 6 days is also full term, but then it's late term at 41 weeks. So I feel like by then you're suffering. At least my wife would, and I'm like 6 feet tall. She's probably 5'5" or 5'6". And then past term is at 42 weeks and beyond. So those are some of the details that you have. Prenatal life support, the placenta. Have you guys ever heard stuff about the placenta before?
Yeah.
Like in some cultures, they save it and encapsulate the
Yeah.
pieces of the placenta.
People freeze them.
Yeah, you freeze them for like stem cells. Right, they like fry it up in them eggs. I was like, ugh. Some do. It just depends on the culture. So like some cultures also bury it like in the garden for nutrients to go into your tomatoes. There's all kinds of different things people do. So culturally, you look it up. We did not keep our placenta. I got like pictures of it. I filmed our second one being born. I got pictures of the placenta. We let them keep it, which is probably scary. They probably keep that too and like make little like chemistry projects out of it, which is weird, but I'm sure when you sign your hospital papers, you're like, yes, you can have all of my placenta or this or that. They give you the chance to keep it. Umbilical cord, they had me cut it. That was creepy because it felt like cutting through skin. Like that was just weird. I had to hold her legs while she was pushing. Like they'd be like, all right, 1, 2, 3, push. And I'm trying to take pictures at the same time. Like, and she did. And she was glad that I filmed it, but I think if I told her while she was having the baby, she would have tried to hit me. Because it's just for her and me to see, maybe the kids when they're old enough, if they want to see it, like, here's how you were born.
Right.
So I don't know where that is on Google Photos somewhere. Maybe somebody sold that information too. Oh. So I guess the key is not to get her face in there. Here's the stomach, and here's the baby coming. So she was glad that I filmed it afterwards, but I had to convince her, like, this is a precious moment. Like, the kid was born. It's kind of crazy. The umbilical cord came out, the placenta came out, and then the amnion bag is what breaks. When your water breaks, that's the amnion bag. So on our first baby, that broke early. We had to go into like emergency status, and they induced her so the baby would leave before the water all emptied out and like left. So have any of you guys heard of some of, obviously this year we have lots of stuff coming up in like now the states are who gets to decide. There's some states that allow abortion, some that don't. So there's a few things. And then there's this movie. Gosh, what is her name? I think it's just called an abortion movie. I can't remember if it's called like Unplanned. Have y'all seen that one? I'll show you the trailer. It's a girl who worked for Planned Parenthood for a long time, which I don't know. Which cities are any of you guys in one of the states that still allows abortion, or in the states that, which ones are which now? I'm like mixing.
We allow abortions.
There's a website with a list of all of them.
Right.
Yeah, we do in Columbus.
Oh, they do up to, so I feel like,
Up to 6 weeks or something.
like when they detect a heartbeat or something. So here's the trailer on this one, and then they have Jane's, how that went down about Jane Doe with Jane Roe, I think. So Roe v. Wade. So here's the first one. I don't know when this. Has anybody seen this? This is interesting.
Abby Johnson is in the other room.
Here.
Our first order of business is to present Planned Parenthood's Employee of the Year Award. Abby Johnson.
This is Abby. She's our newest volunteer escort. Abby, this is Charles Alessandro. I'd be the youngest director in Planned Parenthood history. You'll actually be in charge of the abortions at your clinic. I have a chance to make a real difference.
No matter what you do for the rest of your life, you're still gonna be a baby killer.
The only thing that's changed is you, Abby. Can you even hear yourself talk right now about these procedures? These are little babies.
I'm not going to apologize for doing a job that helps women in crisis. There's still part of me that isn't sure. But the one thing that all experts agree on is that at this stage, the fetus can't feel anything. Sorry to bother you, but they need an extra person in the back room. Are you free? I saw it. It was like it was twisting and fighting for its life.
We commend the souls of these hundreds of children. And Lord, we pray to end abortion.
I really appreciate what you've done for us. I'll not forget it.
22,000 abortions. How do I even comprehend that?
Rough day at the office?
You say that.
You're making a mess.
It's your dad and me. You are our baby from the moment of conception.
We are paying you to be a perfect instrument of corporate policy. We are an abortion provider.
I can't be part of this anymore. Everything that they had told us is a lie.
Don't underestimate the repercussions of this. You gotta be careful.
Rhonda, please don't do it. Rhonda!
Let me tell you what's gonna happen if you walk through that door.
Congratulations. You've made an enemy of one of the most powerful organizations on the planet.
So I don't know what year that came out. It may have been like last year. It's kind of a new movie. The Janes is also another one that, that one was 2019. This one's this year, so May of 2022. This is kind of Roe v. Wade in 71 when it happened. So I was born in the 70s. Oh, I thought it was a commercial. Sorry.
We were criminals. We were ordinary women trying to save women's lives, but we were criminals. We were felons. For most of the nation in 72, abortion was illegal. We had to go underground. The woman would be given the address to the front. It was probably obvious to neighbors what was going on.
Chicago.
We came to the surface from other things, the anti-war movement, the civil rights movement. You couldn't not pay attention to what was going on.
Fetal death is murder.
You could not work as a pregnant woman. If you weren't married, you were out of luck. They were terrible situations.
The septic abortion word was full every day.
Women did awful things. They were literally dying because they were women. So we thought we can be of use. I said, we could use my phone, but change it so that they don't ask for Eleanor. How about Jane? Nobody's called Jane anymore. We had the phone numbers on bulletin boards around Chicago. Pregnant, call Jane.
The clientele included daughters, wives, mistresses of police, state's attorney, judges.
It dawned on me how big an issue this was. Jane was an outrageous undertaking by a lot of smart women. I was not there to pass judgment. I knew there were women like me. Under the radar of the Chicago Mafia and police department, we were all being watched. The phone rings. A man says, "We know where you are." There were 11 counts of conspiracy to commit abortion. 110 years for each of us. So that's a long time. That might have ended Jane right then and there.
I couldn't see myself sitting on the sidelines.
We were building a new world, one woman at a time. Sometimes you have to stand up to illegitimate authority, and sometimes there are unjust laws that need to be challenged.
So that one came out this year. Have you guys heard of MAFA 21? What's that?
How many years? Like, how many, like, films, like, similar to that?
How many films did you say?
Yeah.
There is a lot. This one, because I'm trying to show you guys like an unbiased perspective, just like what's out there so you all can see and understand. Interesting that Nikita has shown me this one. So this is another group. I don't know if there's a trailer. Maybe this is the trailer to it.
They were stolen from their homes, locked in chains, and taken across an ocean. And for more than 200 years, their blood and sweat would help build the richest and most powerful nation the world has ever known. But when slavery ended, their welcome was over. The wealthy elite had decided it was time for them to disappear. And they were not particular about how it might be done. What you are about to see is that the plan these people set in motion 150 years ago is still being carried out today. In this documentary, MAFA 21, this hidden racial agenda is dragged out of the shadows and into the light. Before the next 2 hours are up, you will know things that America's politicians and power brokers never intended for you to know. And you will see things that the media was never going to show you. MAFA 21.
So I would guess there's hundreds of documentaries. You know what I mean? Like if you were to go to videos and see what exactly there is with abortion, and it is, you know, it still is all that changing Roe v. Wade in June did was return the power to the states. So having the country not interfere in the states' rights. So I think some of the things that are being done, education first. So like knowing when there is a pregnancy before there's the heartbeat, knowing when there is, well, this one says there's 5. I'd guess there's dozens. I don't know. Do you guys know of any other ones? There's quite a few that are making out there. This one says 9. And, you know, you're going to hear lots of different thoughts and opinions on it. Is this the right one? Okay. So abortion is defined as spontaneous induced any in pregnancy. 75% of spontaneous abortions occur in the first 12 weeks. Not all vaginal bleeding is a miscarriage. Social worker plays a supportive role. Separate personal from professional values. And that goes with everything. When we're working with clients, if there's something we disagree with and we know to tell our supervisor that we don't want to work with that. You know what I mean? Like if there's something you have a disagreement on, or if you're heavily biased in one way. And regardless, you know, if somebody was all for it and excited to, you know, move on with life and finish the college degree and have the abortion, there's still sadness and loss that goes along with that. You know what I mean? Even if it's like, you know, I'm excited that I don't have to have the baby now and I can, but there's still, as social workers, we need to understand trauma and loss. You know what I mean? And like, and just the fact that like in 4 days, I have to get a surgery and there's like healing that'll come from that. Like I'm getting a little cyst cut off my leg and I'm going to make sure it's not cancerous. So I'm going to be walking, gimping around for a minute. So there's like healing from that. I'd imagine if you had something similar inside your body, there would be pain and there'd be healing and there'll be things of that nature. So next piece is the stages of labor. So this is already jumping way ahead. I feel like I could fill you guys in the meantime of other stuff. So like while you're pregnant, if you did want to have the babies, you could have twins. I don't know. Any of you guys know twins or have them run in your family? So that's something that, I have a few friends that have had twins, and that's a lot of times they weigh a little bit less, maybe like 4 or 5 pounds, because you're carrying 2 of them. I think the most somebody's had is like 6, 7, or 8 babies, right? At one time. Yes. There's documentaries about that too. So yeah, most babies ever birthed. I think it's like octuplets.
And that's usually because most of the time it's not naturally for all them babies.
9 thriving babies. I guess that's a new record. That's in Chicago. Holy crap. I mean, if you guys want to watch this one, I've never seen this one. I always thought it was 8. What'd you say? What's that? Well, you birth them one at a time. You don't give them all at once. It's one through the birth canal at a time. Maybe that's
Or a C-section.
true.
That's a lot of birthing.
True. Okay. So I thought 8 was the record. Now I'm kind of shocked.
It's almost
that many
it's
babies?
one family. It's like a whole big old family.
The Duggars or something. Meet the Duggars.
I know
It's famous.
Right.
Is it time to get birthday?
I think there's a few of
They
them.
had
So
sextuplets, though. They only had twins.
That's still too many.
They had twins first, though.
right, that is. So one interesting fact is that the U.S. is below
A
replacement.
world record. Giving birth to 9 babies. Listen to this: 4 boys and 5 girls, and there were 2 babies that were a surprise. Lindsay Davis, tell us everything, my friend.
Yeah, they didn't see them on the.
Good morning to you, Cecilia. This is a woman who grew up as an only child, and she says that she would see these big families with lots of siblings and be envious. Okay, so now imagine just moments before.
I shouldn't do full screen, should I?
Being content with having your 7 and then 2 more poppers.
Oh
she's
yeah.
about to give birth. She learned she's going to have
Or rich
9
from all the
babies.
write-offs.
Now imagine raising 9 babies. His family says that they go through 100 diapers and 6 liters of milk in a day.
Holy shit.
It's a medical miracle. At 26 years old, Helena Cisse has now surpassed the world record after giving birth to 9 babies at the same time, conceived in a natural pregnancy.
She's like your age.
Cisse lives in Mali, but after a visit to her OBGYN revealed she was pregnant with what they believed at the time to be 7 babies, the expecting mom then flew to Morocco for medical intervention, where at 30 weeks pregnant, all 9 of her children were born by C-section, 5 girls and 4 boys. With the smallest weighing just over a pound, Cisse underwent emergency surgery for internal bleeding. But now we're hearing from the parents for the very first time, beside their 9 thriving babies in this neonatal unit in Morocco.
They must be rich.
Exactly. To say this mom has her hands full is a bit of an understatement, but she shared with us that she's
How do you
always wanted
fly
a big
and-
family, surprise or not. Cisse's husband calls their babies a gift from God. And even though they can't take their children home just yet, they're already anticipating what life will be like.
Comme je vous l'avais dit, c'est des bébés, ils sont hors danger, mais il faut les connaître qu'ils sont fragiles aussi.
Follow mommy. Remember Octomom? Nadia Suleiman became a
Oh my
reality star after giving birth to octuplets 12 years ago following in vitro fertilization. One of the other rare cases of multiple children to all survive a single birth. The doctors in Morocco tell us the mother from Mali and her little ones were in danger.
No shit.
It makes how far they've come along at almost 3 months old, an even bigger shock to the world. Non-uplets are actually extremely rare. In fact, there are only 2 other documented cases, and in both, the babies only live for a few days. In this case, the babies are expected to go home from the hospital in about 2 more months. This couple already has a daughter, so they quickly become a family of 12 in just 2 pregnancies. And Miles said she has not ruled out having more.
What?
From this story, I hope you will stream with us tonight on ABC News.
So I have a friend who's one of 16. He has 3 sisters and 13 brothers, or there's 13 boys and 3 girls. They were very Christian, Catholic, and then I've had some, it's the full spectrum, I guess. And gosh, I had one other thing. Oh yeah, do you guys know what our birth replacement is in America? The birth replacement number. Are we underpopulated or overpopulated?
We're over.
Gotta be over.
In America or in the world?
Period.
So in the world, it is 8 billion, and it is a lot. It's about 3. What's that? Yes, no, baby. I heard. So in the U.S., we have 1.7 kids per couple on average.
0.7, you got 0.7 of a kid.
It's a statistical so say like 300 million people. We just aren't having many babies in America, but with immigration, we're having a ton. And then in China and India, like I visited Asia before. I've been to India and I've been to Nicaragua and El Salvador in Latin America. But we are, believe it or not, below. So that's what was shocking. So if you were to replace yourself, say you were going to have a kid to replace you, I guess you would have one. That's what we were thinking. We had a boy and a girl. In China? What? Oh, you mean Roe v. Wade? It's possible that because we're underpopulated and China's going to take us over and make us all live like the Chinese.
And I feel like our generation is very much like team fuck the kids.
What did you say? Did you say team fuck them kids? What does that mean?
At least for now, because people be like, because I know, I'm not the only person in this room that have like people that they went to high school with and like they have babies now. And like that could never be me like right now until like we get older,
Well, I had my first kid at 42, so you're preaching to the choir. I didn't have any kids until I was 42 years old. Now I've got 3.
That's ridiculous.
I can't do it. I'll be tired.
I'm an old ass man. Like for real, I'm surprised I didn't need a bunch of blue pills or something. I'm an old ass man.
Hey, child.
Wasn't it much more normalized to have like a lot of kids back in the day?
But it's starting to get normal now that older people are having kids.
Right. Yeah, so my wife is 37 for the 3rd baby. And they call her old. They're like, you're geriatric. You're a geriatric pregnancy. So lots of dangers, and we'll get into that in the PowerPoint. But let me show you this real quick, just so you can see that I'm not lying about replacement level. Because we have, like, if you've been to India, it is so crazy. I don't like if I show you some pictures, they're like on the street, and then a bicycle goes by, and like a motorcycle passes them, and a big car, and then a truck, and then a semi, and it's just everywhere. There's no free space anywhere. When I lived in Nicaragua, they gave us Gringo Americans our own room, and then the 7 people lived in the other room. It was like a 2-room house with a dirt floor. So I lived in one room, and they all lived in the other, and like slept like bed. So all over the world, there is a lot of population. But has anybody ever flown on a plane before? Like, you see how much green space there is when you fly? Like, how is there nobody living in all that green space? Nobody likes the country. So here's the stat about replacement population. We're at 1.7. Most people have less than 2 babies, is what it's saying. Like 1.5 kids. Oh, is this just words? That's annoying. So 2.1 is considered replacement. So like when we had a boy and a girl, that's close to replacing ourselves. But I guess for population growth, you would need
Get away with a
one
great
more.
deal at the Hyundai Getaway sales event with new cars.
What's that? It's going to be your choice, obviously, but we are.
10, so I got it, y'all.
You're having 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Well, here's the stats before we move on to that. If they even talk. Great. They're not going to talk, are they?
A woman's weight doesn't affect her fertility.
Total myth. If a woman's too thin, she doesn't ovulate. You don't make an egg, you don't get pregnant. Overweight,
Same thing. You don't ovulate efficiently, and it's also more difficult to have sex.
They do sound mean.
Standing on your head.
Look at them. They look mean.
Sperm gets to the surface immediately, and sperm are swimming up the uterus, up the tube to find it. Whether you're lying on your back, whether you're lying on your stomach, up or down, it does not matter.
Yeah, sorry.
Have fun, relax. Don't worry. Don't stress about something that doesn't affect you.
Fatty foods are fine for fertility.
Another myth. You have to have a healthy diet. It has to have a balance of protein, fat, and carbohydrate. There are good fats and there are not so good fats. A little bit of saturated fat isn't going to kill you, but the unsaturated fats are optimal. Less sugar and less processed foods, that's the secret sauce. You'll feel better, your body works better, you'll have a better pregnancy. Focus on nutrition.
You need sex every day to get pregnant.
Every other
And yet another myth. You don't have to have sex every day. You just have to have sex one time at the right time to make it optimal. Although if sperm hangs around for 6 days, if a guy hasn't ejaculated 6 days, the quality of the sperm diminishes. So there needs to be some activity. Just have intercourse around the proper time of ovulation and you got it covered.
Drugs, alcohol, smoking won't impact your fertility.
Myth. Cigarette smoking is awful for eggs. It's ovotoxic, as we say. You don't have to have no alcohol if you're trying to get pregnant, but just moderation is the key. Recreational drugs, they're not good for you. They can't be good for your eggs. They can't be good for a developing fetus. If you have problems with recreational drugs, get help because it's not going to help you.
What about acid? Yeah. We always told acid affects the chromosomes. Okay, I showed you the wrong video. This is the one I meant to show you. Sorry. This is our last one, I promise. But so we do have immigration, which puts us above 350 million. But like India is about 1/3 of the size of America, and they have 3 times the population. It's crazy.
Being able to go and do what I want to do. I love work. I'm kind of like a workaholic in terms of I just really throw myself into writing.
It's something she carefully considered with her husband, Jeremy.
I think I just had a lot of other aspirations in mind. Babies are a lot of work, and I wasn't really willing to take on half that work.
And it's a decision more women are making. A new report shows the U.S. birth rate is the lowest in 30 years. Last year, just 3.85 million babies were born.
We are seeing that access to contraception is more broadly available to women, and that's been giving them the opportunity to choose whether or not to have children at younger ages or at different stages in their life.
Other possible factors, more women delaying childbirth for professional reasons, economic uncertainty, and a drop in teen pregnancies.
I think that the important take home is that women have choices to delay childbearing and to optimize their health prior to achieving pregnancy or attempting pregnancy is going to be the best for their outcomes.
So, Dr. John, what are experts concerned about?
Well, some say it puts our country in jeopardy of not having a strong enough workforce in the years to come. Another possible impact, though, we risk having fewer people to help care for the nation's growing elderly population.
That sounds so capitalist. Like, are you serious? We won't have people to work. Okay.
Very true. Yeah, you're right. It's messed up. So in Japan, 30% of the houses are vacant right now too. Have you guys heard about Japan's more worse off than the US? And that is Asia, but remember, they've had the A-bomb dropped on them. They've had I'm trying to think of what happened in Japan, but most people are 70, 80, 90, and 100 in Japan, and they've got like one kid. Kind of like the China's one-child policy.
Yeah.
And then in India, it was similar. If they detected the baby was a girl, they aborted it. And that went on for 30 years. So what do you think that happens after that goes on for 10, 15, 20, 25 years? Right, and there's big stories on they have 30 million less women in China and 40 million less women in India. So there's these dudes sitting at home.
And that's what I learned about that environmental science, and he said since it was less women than men, like it was very hard to find a mate or a lover, and then also more men there was turning gay.
Right. Yeah. Well, and especially in certain areas. So yeah, because you're obviously still going to have sexuality. So that is very common. somebody showed the fertility rate. We were at like 2.1, 2.2, 2.3. And then after Roe v. Wade, it just like collapsed 71 to 79. Maybe this is what shows it. But like we were kind of at replacement, at least in the US. So this is a story doing the whole world and 7 billion people in 13. I always kind of break it down this way. When my dad was born in 1945, we had like 1 or 2 billion people. In 71, my oldest sister was born. We had like 3 billion people. When I was born in 1978, there's 4 billion people. My little sister, we had 5 billion people in 86. 99, we had 6 billion. 7 billion by 2013, and now we're almost at like 8 billion. What's that? It's like an ongoing constant debate, you know, like what's that? Well, because there's no right or wrong answer. If you're looking for like a right side of it or wrong, there's no right or wrong answer, honestly. You know what I mean? It's up for debate. Like we could debate it all day long in here too. Like we need less, we need more. Like 2.1 on the nose. Like you just replace yourself and then you're done. Like the one child policy in China. Was it 1 for a while? It was like only one kid. 2 for a while. Yeah. Okay. And you didn't want any of them to be girls because the inheritance left your family. But then it got out of the whack with like way too many boys.
And then who's gonna how you reproduce?
You can't.
Yeah, because you got all boys.
Right.
Doesn't make any sense.
Well, maybe they say it's 2022, men can get pregnant. I don't know. I'm just like I obviously I'm just putting it out there for the discussion part because there's so much going on about have you guys seen the articles about China and India being lopsided on women? It's kind of sad. Let's see here. Or maybe just Asia has more men. Let's just do a simple Google search. So there's been a lot of research in the past. There's 2 billion men in Asia and the Middle East compared to, so that was 5 years ago. It was only off by like, is that 300 million? Anybody good at math in here? I'm not. So it was like 55-45. I mean, it was a skew. Like for real, there were dudes just like, here's a story on the Washington Post. Yeah, look at all these dudes chasing that one. They're like on Tinder, like going after her. What's up? And she's like, nope. Which way do you swipe? I always forget.
Swipe
Is it
right.
right? They're like, nope.
I got a question.
Yeah.
What's the male to female ratio for in the US?
In the U.S., that's a good question. I feel like it's more balanced. U.S. male to female ratio. Let's see. Oops. I'm not going to spell anything right today. There you go. More women.
I'm not even surprised about that.
Right? You're like, why is everybody on Tinder women? So, I wonder why. Probably because men are in riskier behaviors and die. I don't know. What do you guys think? That's a good discussion point too. Why?
I feel like there's so many factors that go into that.
Women live longer. Period.
Men don't go to the doctor.
Men don't go to the doctor. You're right. That's true. Do you go to the doctor?
Like a lot of men don't though. Like
Right.
they, like especially like older men. Like my grandpa, I don't make them go.
Like this cyst on my leg, I've had a cyst on my leg for 10 or 11 years. And I'm like,
And then you're probably going down to your wife like you need to
she's like, thank God you're going. I forget what, I guess now, because like my kids will kick me and it hurts. Like it's a cyst that got big enough. And I've had one removed here. I've had a ganglion cyst. They call it a Bible bump.
I get them on top of my hand.
Because they say if you hit it with a Bible, it'll go away.
No, it don't. And it hurts when they like explode.
Right.
Oh, God.
So I've had all those surgically removed. They're like, you're a cysty person. You just got to get them all removed. But
Talk about this.
the Bible bump, yeah. Did you get one? Yep.
Does it make your hand cramp? Huh?
It hurts.
Your hand cramp?
It hurts like hell.
It's probably on the nerve.
So I had to go to a hand surgeon, and I still have the scar. He removed that, and then also I went to a natural doctor for a fatty tumor here, and in India I went to somebody, and they're like, "You just got to eat different, bro." And I was like, so I came to America. They're just like, "Cut, remove," and they make sure it's not cancerous. So anyway, I don't know. What do you guys think? We have everybody logging in online.
My dad, he used to tell my mom, like, I think one day, we haven't been for like a minute, and one day he had came over, and this man lost all the weight. Like, he was so much smaller.
Was he sick?
No, like, he was walking around, doing the same thing he was doing. Like, he was over here trying to, like, play with my little brothers. Not everything. He had energy. He went to the doctor, and they said, "Oh, you got diabetes."
Oh, really?
Yeah, my mom was like, "You need to go to the doctor. You're not losing weight because you're drinking more water."
Is that what he said? Right.
He had made, and it was kind of funny. It was like,
Right. Right. So you're right. Men. Do you guys know the average age of a man dying and average age of a woman?
I thought it was like 70 something.
I think it's 77. Is my dad's there right now, and women are 80 some. My mom's 75. My dad's 77. He had quadruple bypass, so like they went in for 3, and they had to replace a 4th because they were all 90% blocked from like cholesterol. Yeah, because we got good food in America. You know what I mean? Like that's just the way it is.
Does that never change? Like for decades or something?
The past 2 years, or the first 2 years, our life expectancy has gone down. And at first they said it was the opioid epidemic, and then the second year was from coronavirus. Or
What about as far as like natural causes? Like what is the life expectancy? Like has it changed? Like
for natural, what did you say?
natural causes.
Oh, natural causes. Well,
Men are 78 and the women are 81.
so that's
What was it like?
not a ton different, but like when my dad was born, it was like 50 for real. Yeah, like men were expected to live to 50, and in Jesus' time, they were like 30 was the expected. I don't know. But then you see that part of the Bible where people live to 100. Remember that part? Like, what?
You know, things back then are like polio.
Right.
And then they didn't have stuff to treat it.
So antibiotics, that's a big one. And that used to kill everyone off. And so when my dad was born, there was only 2 billion. And antibiotics took off in 1941, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And so everything's dying. But I feel like we did go through, how long has that been? Oh, it's over an hour. Any questions at this point? There's so much about birth, death, and how to get pregnant. Like you could spend a whole semester on it, but I'll get you through it, I promise. Any questions, thoughts, opinions? What are the other words for like just blurting shit out? I don't even know. Inquiries. Yeah. So I think I'll be doing this on New Year's Eve again. The baby's due January 7th. There's the placenta. That's so creepy. What's that?
Be ready. That's going to be your baby on Woo.
There's another boy too. So we'll have 1 girl and 2 boys. Isn't it lopsided in America? One first was a girl and the last 2 have been boys. Yeah. 3 under 2.5 years old. I'm surprised. Yeah. She's trying to do 6 credit hours right now too, I think. Crazy. Finishing up. You're like, the kids like run over to your laptop like, dead. You're like writing a paper.
Wait till they grab it and run.
I know. So anyway, yeah, that's, we at least got half of the way through the, oh yeah, they do skin on skin now. They even have me like where the baby has the footprints and they like put them on your chest. It's kind of funny. So yeah, that's that's where we'll stop for today. But there's so much stuff, like more women than men, most of the world. Replacement rate in America is 1.7. So for every 2 of us, we're having 1.7 kids. Does that make sense?
Yeah, just like everything.
Nobody has a middle child anymore. Maybe that's what I'll say. Nobody's having middle children. About 2. Like if you have a boy and a girl, you stop. And if you have 2 boys, you're like, all right, let's try one more time. I don't know. I'm just making conjectures or projections, but that's all I have for today. You guys have any questions about the genogram, ecomap?
This is online already, right? Oh, this is online.
It is, yep.
I know I was like late. What was how do you do it again?
How you do the genogram, you said?
No.
Oh yeah, we do have a sheet. You want to pay? We only made it to this table. So, so we do have a sheet, and then either write under the YouTube video or sign in here. So that way, you guys, you're all good on your like classes